I have in my possession a secret map made in Germany by Hitler's government, by the planners of the New World Order.
All of the conspiracy theories that you've ever heard about one world government, about the UN takeover of the world, all of those conspiracies have now been laid to rest. There's nothing conspiratorial about it. It's all published. The UN-funded Commission on Global Governance began meeting in 1992 in earnest and met for 4 years, and last fall released their final report. It is entitled Our Global Neighborhood.
Task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
And now is the time. The only way out is up. And it's not heaven. It's a new world. The future is gold.
A world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. The world can therefore seize this opportunity to fulfill the long-held promise of a new world order. We can find meaning and reward by serving some higher purpose than ourselves. A shining purpose, the illumination of 1,000 points of light.
Oh, don't forget our sponsor. What? Don't forget our new sponsor. Oh, good golly, Miss Molly, that's right. Tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Bengay. I ain't gonna touch it. Ben did.
Council of the Americas, founder and honorary chairman, David Rockefeller. The Americas Society, chairman, David Rockefeller. The Forum of the Americas, founder, David Rockefeller. The Institute for International Economics, financial backer and board member, David Rockefeller. The Trilateral Commission, founder and honorary chairman, David Rockefeller. Rockefeller's influence also extends to the current administration. He was chairman emeritus of the CFR when Vice President Dick Cheney once served as a director, a relationship that Cheney concealed during his congressional career.
United Nations headquarters, which was built in 1945 and financed largely by John D. Rockefeller. Inside UN headquarters is an ominous meditation room. The custodian of the meditation room is Lucis Trust Company. At one time, the Lucis Trust was located at 666 United Nations Plaza and was formally named Lucifer Publishing Company. The Rockefeller-funded UN meditation room is 33 feet long and 18 feet wide. 18 feet is 6 plus 6 plus 6. The small, dimly lit, windowless room was built in the shape of a pyramid that is laying on its side. At the center of the room is a 4-foot-high, black, casket-shaped stone slab which weighs 6.5 tons and is extremely magnetic and rests on a concrete pillar. The pillar descends beneath the floor into the bedrock and taps into the Earth's hyperdimensional energies to induce a state of altered consciousness. The general message of the UN's Phoenix Rising mural is that humanity is stepping into a new Luciferic reality. Beneath this disturbingly prophetic mural, world leaders make global decisions that affect the lives of nearly 7 billion people.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law.
When our founders declared a new order of the ages, they were acting on an ancient hope that is meant to be fulfilled.
When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN.
But we have to put our money where our mouths are. And we can only realize the promise of this institution's founding to replace the ravages of war with cooperation if powerful nations, like my own, accept constraints. Sometimes I'm criticized in my own country for professing a belief in international norms and multilateral institutions, but I am convinced that in the long run, giving up some freedom of action, not giving up our ability to protect ourselves or pursue our core interests, but binding ourselves to international rules over the long term enhances our security.
Absolute power, which is as corrupt as it ever gets. In studying dictatorships, which I've done since I'm about 18 years old, I've never heard a dictator say he's doing anything illegally. Never. Even Hitler said that everything he did was within the law. Did you know that? I mean, our National Action Network president, Barack Hussein Obama, said he's going to act within the law. Mussolini said he was acting within the law when he violated the law. Hitler said he was acting within the law when he needed some living space for the Germans, Lebensraum. He wasn't invading Czechoslovakia because he wanted to conquer Czechoslovakia. He said he had the legal right to engage in getting some living space for the German people. That's all. Everything's legal.
President Obama calling for a new world order.
Well, there have been extraordinary scenes in Berlin tonight as thousands of people gathered to hear Barack Obama deliver key foreign policy speech on his current European tour. His vision for America's place in a new world order for the United States.
In creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
And for the international order that we have worked for generations to.
The president pledged to shape, quote, a new international order.
President Obama called for a new U.S. role on the world stage.
So we have to shape an international order that can meet the challenges of our generation. The international order we seek is one that can resolve the challenges of our times.
When we are successful, and we will be.
The power to keep people in prison indefinitely with no charges against them, no conviction, no sentence, just imprisonment. It's particularly stunning to hear him make that claim in the middle of a speech.
Who think I'm planning to unleash some secret agenda. You're absolutely right.
Pretty impressive, a display of international military might. Thousands of men and women from several different countries all landed on Camp Pendleton's beaches today. It's all part of a multinational exercise called Dawn Blitz.
New at 5, 10 News reporter Joe Little was on the beach during that exercise and reveals why training alongside other countries has become part of the U.S. military's way of life.
Two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them.
And they're all white. Why are they all white?
I don't know. Isn't white a UN color?
The bodies would pile up, the military would pile in, and the concentration camp gates would open. They call it a residential center, but it looks a hell of a lot more like a prison to me. Double fences, floodlights, barbed wire to keep people from getting out, and at the main entrance, railroad tracks, just like Nazi Germany.
Citizens who were caught up in Hitler's Nazi Germany hardly noticed the gradual development of extremism, mainly due to high emotions and dazzling propaganda. But history often repeats itself. FEMA plastic coffins, detention centres, armoured checkpoints and armoured military vehicles for civil purposes are well-documented facts. For the United States military claims stores of guillotines located in Fort Lewis military facility. The latest revelation of Obamacare sanctions death by guillotine, code ICD 9E978.
The guillotines show that Obamacare is not about American health care. It's about global health care. But it's not really health care. They've got to have some kind of a political structure so as to be able to kill anybody they want to in any nation on earth. They got to get every person on the planet involved, and health care is the best idea that they came up with because everybody's going to need health care sooner or later. So the guillotines are in there, and we know that the guillotines is implemented by the World Health Organization, which is international office of the United Nations. So this proves doubly that Obamacare has nothing to do about American health care. It has to do about global health care.
It's hundreds of thousands plastic coffins.
So each one of those is a separate coffin stacked on top. There's probably, what, 20 to 25 per stack. And how many stacks? Literally hundreds of them.
And you can fit 4 dead bodies per plastic coffin. It's basically a giant body bag.
Tens of thousands of coffins. Officially, they're plastic grave liners. So you're telling me there isn't one FEMA camp of these in the United States right now?
There are not.
Why is it in that bill?
What is exactly in the bill?
It talks about building FEMA camps, doesn't it? That particular bill that we're talking about? What's the bill number? 6 FEMA camps to be built within the United States. How can a bill state that there'll be 6 FEMA camps built in the United States and then I'm being told there are none?
I think those are locations for if there's a disaster like in Katrina. I think that's what it is. It's not any kind of a concentration camp or anything to round up citizens.
Well, we have films of children playing on the swings and the slides and stuff, and this one technically falls under Homeland Security.
Well, I don't know. I haven't been there, and I don't know who the children are, and the children are probably very happy.
Where have we heard that before?
As it's just training soldiers for the realities of war, critics say the Army is preparing for modern-day martial law.
You know, part of this is to demonstrate what the city does so that if it happens in real life, people will have some understanding of what's going to happen. This is something we constantly worry about. The threat is always there. You know, what happens in other regions of the world is important, but I think we have enough of a homegrown issue that all of this needs to be practiced.
Yeah, pretty much at that time, your Second Amendment, or all your rights, First Amendment rights, pretty much everything is at that moment just interrupted. Yeah.
So you said that martial law suspends their Second Amendment, so I'm not going to, but would you say we would take weapons from people?
Yeah, that's what they do. Yeah.
That's what they do, but I'm saying...
Yes, I wouldn't agree with that either. I'm just like, I live the Second Amendment. But
okay.
Essentially during a moment of martial law, we've lost all control. They're pretty much saying when the military moves in on your street, they are now saying you have no more rights for what you're going inside your house. That's like the worst case scenario. So I'm saying when the way they're
no, you're not gonna go knocking on doors and be like, all right, I need a shotgun here. You're not gonna like go up to each house and say.
Well, they did that in Katrina.
Makes a mockery of freedom.
There's a lot of what if going on here as well. You know, what if gun control? What if martial law? What if they disrupt the chain of command? Is there any proof on either side of anything going on?
Absolutely none whatsoever.
Today in New Orleans, they got a lot tougher on the holdouts.
Police department, anyone home?
Not only the flooded areas, but New Orleans' driest and wealthiest neighborhoods, too.
Police department!
The police and National Guard going street by street, house to house.
We need to make sure, too, that whenever we knock on doors, people refuse to leave. We need to make note, call it in.
Sometimes entering open houses with guns drawn and instructions to disarm anyone inside.
You say guns will be taken? No one will be able to be armed. We will take all weapons.
That happened today in this wealthy neighborhood where homeowners had armed themselves to protect their mansions. Residents were handcuffed on the ground.
they were a little bit threatened because our weapons were bigger than their weapons.
For many of the police and guard troops, it is an uncomfortable job to do this in an American city.
Well, I don't want you in here. We're not going to do that. I don't want you in here, period. But there's a mandatory evacuation. I know all about it. All of a sudden, they were banging on the front door, the side door, and the back door. They said, let us in.
Patty tried to explain. She was on dry land, she had plenty of food and water, and didn't want to abandon her dogs. But it didn't matter.
If you see 6 or 8 police that look like linebackers pushing you in a corner, you're in shock. I'm saying, look at all my food. I got plenty of food. They kept pushing me back, and ended up like this.
Well, Patricia Coney's protests were to no avail. They moved her out of there.
That's why I'm asking, and if we're talking about shit hitting the fan...
shit's about to start getting crazy, if you know what I mean.
I'm not going to do it, but...
They're not going to do that necessarily. It's more or less like, hey, go in your house. Shut up, stay there. That's
okay.
Because the reason I have martial law in place is for those situations, like I said, everything's already broken down. It's a last resort to change pretty much your last ditch effort.
Which I think is bullshit, but...
You're going to claim your right to
yeah.
The exercise, which involved U.S. Marines from the 1st Battalion, 5th Marine Regiment, 1st Marine Division, well, it took place on April 18th and revolved around assault support tactics training. The video shows Marines landing in a helicopter on a field next to a busy highway. Local citizens can be seen watching the exercise over a chain-link fence while role players take part in the drill. One of the role players, you can see him right here, he tries to escape the compound and is chased down and handcuffed by an armed Marine. And you can even hear the role players shouting things out like, "Let me out!" Because, well, it looks like they are training to put Americans in internment camps. Why do the role players always shout things out like, "I'm a sovereign citizen, I have my rights," or "Don't take my guns"? I mean, that's the routine. That's what we're seeing from these drills. And why are they building mock cities like they did at Fort A.P. Hill in Virginia, where the street signs are clearly in English and they resemble an average American town? Don't forget, it was Alex Jones who went to a drill in California. This was several years ago, and he captured a video of the U.S. military processing American citizens into an internment camp. As the voice over the loudspeaker, well, you can hear him shouting, "We will not tolerate civil disobedience."
Attention, attention, attention. Remain calm. We will not tolerate civil disobedience.
Now, if this was practice for the Middle East, you'd think they'd say something like, "We will not tolerate civil disobedience" in Arabic. I mean, wouldn't they? So as you can see, these drills have been occurring for a very long time, but there's no doubt that they are accelerating at a rapid pace right now as the U.S. military, well, it looks like they are training for martial law.
I'm a sovereign citizen. I refuse to recognize you guys. Stop. I refuse to recognize you.
There's a massive gear up for martial law, and they won't call it martial law. They're training for it, but then saying they're not. Let's go to the clip from Indiana.
We didn't have the violence that we see today. The weaponry is totally different now than it was in the beginning of my career.
Not true.
Plus, you have a lot of people that are coming out of the military that have the ability and the knowledge to build IEDs and to defeat law enforcement techniques.
Take enemy fire and still try to address a threat without being feared of getting shot.
So I'm thinking that is totally appropriate in Iraq, but what kind of a situation in the U.S. would you see that happening?
I mean, we've got a lot of constitutionalists and a lot of people that stockpile weapons, a lot of ammunition. I mean, we've got a lot of constitutionalists and a lot of people that stockpile weapons.
You don't have that much time to take away Americans' guns, declare martial law, and put hardworking Americans in FEMA camps. If you're going to do that, you better get started. You better get started.
Politicians have traditionally hidden behind three things: the flag, the Bible, and children.
Why did Obama use children to sign 23 executive orders the month after the Sandy Hook
holidays? We were now all back in Boston, and we felt the group that was living up here but had graduated from Newtown, we said we need to get together. We really need to make an effort and make time for each other and support each other. And so it really was a simple, let's get together.
Because the owners of this country, I'm talking about the real owners now, the big, the wealthy, the real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions.
A Sandy Hook victim who dies again in Pakistan. This is an amazing article. If you look at these pictures, it's still up on Infowars.com. Photo of a child killed at Sandy Hook shows up at the Pakistani school shooting. Now, that school shooting was one where they had 136, I believe, was the count of children that were killed by terrorists in Pakistan. But they have one picture that is prominently featured over and over again. And we have this documented in this article from Adon Salazar. Over and over again, this one child who was one of the children that we were shown as a victim at Sandy Hook. And it really does bring up the question as to what's going on here.
And people be coming to me talking about, I don't understand why they would stage the shootings. I mean, I see what you're saying, and this whole shooting doesn't make sense, and it looks fake, but I just don't get why they would do it. Okay. Well, I got the answer for you. Well, part of the answer. And it's coming straight from the puppet's mouth.
I have to say that...
He has to say.
People often ask me, how's it been being president? And, what are my...
Come on. Spit it
what
out.
am I proudest of and what are my biggest disappointments? And, I've got 2.5 years left.
Good.
My biggest frustration so far is the fact that this society, key word, has not been willing,
talking about you,
to take some basic steps to keep guns out of the hands of people who can do just unbelievable damage.
You mean people don't want the New World Order agenda? Is that what you're talking about?
We're the only society. We're the only developed country on earth where this happens.
Well, that's because y'all keep staging shootings every other week.
And it happens now once a week.
Yeah, see that? It happens.
And it's a one-day story. There's no place else like this.
Yeah, because they're not staging the shootings.
Why aren't we doing something about this? And
y'all already doing something about this.
I will tell you that I have been in Washington for a while now, and most things don't surprise me. The fact that 26-year-olds
I know he ain't talking
were
about
gunned down in the most violent fashion
I know he ain't talking. Hold up. He better not be talking about Sandy Hook. That's been proven a hoax over and over and over again. Matter of fact, link in the description box. I got proof that the official report was a lie 36 times.
And this town couldn't do anything about it?
They shouldn't have to. Look at them, shaming people.
And so the question then becomes, what can we do about it? The only thing that's going to change is public opinion.
Boom, there you go.
If public opinion does not demand change in Congress, it will not change.
They do it for you. You see, they roll out these fake parents coming out here talking about gun control. First they say, oh, we come with no preconceived agenda. The next thing you know, they in the White House. They over there lobbying Congress for gun control, going to different states. Within 24 hours of the shooting, coming out talking about this was all because of the craven politicians and the NRA.
I've initiated over 20 executive actions to try to tighten up some of the rules and the laws.
Supposed to do that.
But the bottom line is that we don't have enough tools right now.
Oh, I'm looking at the biggest tool.
To really make as big of a dent as we need to.
Before we let you go, since we have you here, we haven't had a chance to kind of talk about some of the...
I'm not speaking about anything that's off topic. This is only about the president.
Well, what about...
Thank you.
All right, so Congressman Michael Grimm does not want to talk about some of the allegations concerning his campaign finances. We wanted to get him on camera on that, but he, as you saw, refused to talk about that. Back to you. Why?
Let me be clear to you. You have to do that to me again. I'll throw you on this.
I just wanted to ask you. Why? It's a valid question.
You tell me what the fuck. No, you're not mad. You're not mad. Break you like a boy.
And we are fools if we praise the government for exposing a plot of its own creation and saving us from a danger that never existed. Can the government break the law in order to enforce it? Well, when it does, it becomes a law unto itself, and the rule of law dies as the feds decide whom to target and whom to trap. Think about it. Are we really safe in a false sense of security? Why do we pay the government to trick us into believing it is keeping us safe? When no one is harmed and the government controls the plot, aren't we just punishing someone for his thoughts? And in a free society, aren't free people free to think as they wish? This must be so, because if the government can punish our thoughts, there are no limits to its power.
None of this is going on. We're going under global treaties. Our borders are wide open. We're living in a globalist dictatorship. We're smart enough to try to politically take the country back. We're gearing up to defend ourselves as the military trains to attack us.
You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets, and they own all the big media news, all the big media companies. So they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls.
How many Americans are aware of George Soros?
George Soros is known to have exclusive access to top U.S. policymakers. George Soros is now one of the top donors to Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign.
Soros also collapses regimes. With his Open Society Fund, which was founded in 1979, Soros has helped fund the Velvet Revolution in the Czech Republic, the Orange Revolution in the Ukraine, the Rose Revolution in Georgia. He also helped engineer coups in Slovakia, Croatia, and Yugoslavia. So what is his target now? Us. America.
Went out, in fact, and helped in the confiscation of property from the Jews.
That's right. Yes.
I mean, that sounds like an experience that would send lots of people to the psychiatric couch for many, many years. Was it difficult?
Not at all. Not at all.
Of all the financial titans and philanthropists of the 20th century, none are more complex or mysterious than George Soros. Like Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, and the Rockefellers, he amassed billions through ruthless business decisions, only to turn around and give away most of his fortune to advance his own personal philosophy. He can move world financial markets simply by voicing an opinion, or destabilize a government by buying and selling its currency.
No, I think this would be the time, because you really need to bring China into the creation of a new world order, financial world order. They are kind of reluctant members of the IMF. They play along, but they don't make much of a contribution because it's not their institution. Their share is not commensurate. Their voting rights are not commensurate to their weight. So I think you need a new world order that China has to be part of the process of creating it, and they have to buy in. They have to own it the same way as, let's say, the United States owns the Washington Consensus, the current order.
As of tomorrow, the renminbi will be considered by the international community as a freely usable international currency and will join the basket of the special drawing rights, together with the US dollar, the euro, the yen, and the British pound. The expansion of the SDR basket is a historical milestone for the SDR, for the fund, but more importantly for China and for the international monetary system. It is a significant change for the fund because since the euro, this is the first time that a new currency is included to that basket. It is an important step in the integration of the Chinese economy into the global financial and monetary system. The renminbi's inclusion reflects the progress made in reforming China's monetary, foreign exchange, and financial systems.
Well, what will be the biggest impact of a full-fledged currency crisis right here in the United States?
Well, it's important for people to understand this because this is a much bigger deal than the mortgage crisis we saw in 2008. When the currency collapses, nearly everything else will collapse with it. Stocks, bonds, commodities, you name it. The US dollar will ultimately lose its status as the world's reserve currency, and people will reject the dollar for almost any alternative. When you destroy a currency, you destroy the entire economy. You destroy the whole nation. The middle class gets wiped out. The way you live, work, travel, retire, and invest in America, everything is going to change. Some of it's in ways most people can't even imagine.
Buying political power. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Factor has been investigating far-left billionaire George Soros, a man who wants to impose a radical left agenda on America. And under the radar, he is making great progress. Soros has set up a complicated political operation designed to do two things: buy influence among some liberal politicians and smear people with whom he disagrees. Now, here's a chart of how Soros and a few other wealthy radicals who help him are funneling money into the political process. Stay with me on this. Most of Soros's political money flows through his Open Society Institute. You see it there on the left, which is almost unlimited funding. Since 2001, according to federal documents, the Open Society Institute has given nearly $20 million to the Tides Foundation, right below that, an astounding amount. Now, Tides, in turn, funnels the money to a variety of radical hatchet men who are all well paid. For example, Tides has donated millions to the vile propaganda outfit Media Matters, which specializes in distorting comments made by politicians, pundits, and media people. Media Matters is an internet site, but directly feeds its propaganda to some mainstream media people, including elements at NBC News, columnists Frank Rich and Paul Krugman at the New York Times, columnist Jonathan Alter at Newsweek, and Bill Moyers at PBS. In fact, as president of the Schumann Center Foundation, Moyers oversaw at least a $500,000 transfer of money to Media Matters. We'll have more on that tomorrow. Now, George Soros is also pouring money into the Center for American Progress, run by former Clinton aide John Podesta, and the Democracy Alliance Group, both of which fund Media Matters as well. So you can see an enormous amount of money this Media Matters has control of. Finally, George Soros has given the radical left organization Move On many, many millions of dollars. This group actively supports liberal politicians like Howard Dean and John Edwards. It also organizes demonstrations promoting left-wing causes. So you can see how powerful this guy Soros has become. He can smear anyone he wants in a variety of ways. His organizations can raise millions for politicians who will do his bidding. Thus, he can demand that politicians running for office do what he tells them to do. If a liberal politician doesn't toe the Soros line, he or she will be denied funding and brutally attacked. Just ask Senator Joseph Lieberman about what Move On and Media Matters did to him. Now, Talking Points has reason to believe John Edwards is taking orders from the Soros group right now, and other Democratic politicians may be as well. The goal of George Soros, Peter Lewis, Susie Tompkins Buell, and other radical financiers is to buy a presidential election. By that I mean find and fund a candidate who will tacitly do what he or she is told to do. In the past, big business has been accused of doing just that. Now it is the likes of George Soros, an extremist who wants open borders, a one-world foreign policy, legalized drugs, euthanasia, and on and on. My book, Culture Warrior, documents the Soros policy and his tax-evading businesses located in Curacao and Bermuda. The really frightening thing about all this is that most Americans have never even heard of George Soros. This is off-the-chart dangerous, but completely legal under the McCain-Feingold Act.
Thank you very much, Richard, and I am delighted to be here in these new headquarters. I have been often to, I guess, the mothership in New York City, but it's good to have an outpost of the council right here down the street from the State Department. We get a lot of advice from the council, so this will mean I won't have as far to go to be told what we should be doing and how we should think about the future.
I am a player.
Right now, his Quantum Group hedge fund moves $14 billion of rich investors' money around the world every day, looking for profits and answering to no one. Soros makes huge bets on whole countries and economies. Last year, when he saw cracks in the Asia boom, he began selling the currency in Thailand. Traders in Hong Kong followed suit, triggering a financial crisis that plunged much of Asia into a depression.
In the last 2 years, you've been blamed for financial collapse of Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Japan, and Russia.
All of the above.
All of the above. Yeah. The Prime Minister of Malaysia said that the region spent 40 years trying to build up its economy, and along comes a moron like Soros with a lot of money, and it's all over. He called you a criminal.
It's easier for him to blame an outside force than to admit that they were mismanaging their economy and their currency. I think that I've been blamed for everything. I am basically there to make money. I cannot and do not look at the social consequences of what I do.
I can be proud of my enemies, and they are a very powerful group and very worthy to be opposed. Whether it's Putin or Orban in Hungary or Tea Party in the United States. I have enemies I'm proud of.
Fuck, you're old.
The movie Cocoon is pure pornography. Okay, guys, let's get out there and make a difference. You know what to do.
Malcolm Deadpool boy!
Time to make the chimmy fucking chongas.
X gon' give it to you. Fuck, wait for you to get it on your own. X gon' deliver to you. Knock, knock, open up the door, it's real. With the non-stop pop out from stainless steel.
Game on, cocksuckers.
The CFR exists, the Trilateral Commission exists, and it's a, quote, conspiracy of ideas. This is an ideological battle. Some people believe in globalism, others of us believe in national sovereignty.
It's a global power structure that is responsible for the economic decisions that have robbed our working class, stripped our country of its wealth, and put that money into the pockets of a handful of large corporations and political entities.
And there is a move on toward a North American Union, just like early on there was a move on for a European Union, and it eventually ended up. So we had NAFTA and moving toward a NAFTA highway. These are real things. It's not somebody made these up. It's not a conspiracy. They don't talk about it, and they might not admit about it, but there's been money spent on it. There was legislation passed in the Texas legislature unanimously to put a hold on it. They're planning on millions of acres taken by eminent domain for an international highway from Mexico to Canada, which is going to make the immigration problem that much worse. So it's not so much a secretive conspiracy. It's a contest between ideologies, whether we believe in our institutions here, our national sovereignty, our Constitution, or are we going to further move in the direction of international government, more UN? You know, this country goes to war under UN resolutions. I don't like big government in Washington. So I don't like this trend toward international government. We have a WTO that wants to control our drug industry, our nutritional products. So I'm against all that, but it's not so much as a sinister conspiracy. It's just knowledge is out there. If we look for it, you'll realize that our national sovereignty is under threat.
Congressman Paul, thank you.
It's good to be back at the Council on Foreign Relations. As Pete mentioned, I've been a member for a long time and was actually a director for some period of time. I never mentioned that when I was campaigning for re-election back home in Wyoming.
He's like, you go back to New York and you deliver the message exactly the way that I told you to deliver the message. And I said, well, Richard, I don't want them to think I'm threatening them because, you know, I believe in like negotiations and conflict resolution. He said, no, I don't want them to think you are threatening them. And he said, I don't want them to think I am threatening them. I want you to tell them this threat of war originates at the highest level of government, above the CIA director and above the Secretary of State. That it would be three men, President George Bush, Vice President Dick Cheney, and Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld, and no one else. Those are the three people who are threatening war. And I want to be really clear about the message that I was ordered to give them. We demand that you turn over any actionable, any fragment of intelligence outlining a conspiracy involving airplane hijackings and a strike on the World Trade Center. If you withhold this information, if we discover that you have withheld this information and the attack occurs, then we will bomb you back to the Stone Age. You will be bombed harder than you've ever been bombed before. You will be destroyed. You've never been hit the way we're going to hit you now. Okay, so I went up and I delivered that message. This is May of 2001. In June and July, practically every single week, my CIA handler, Dr. Richard Fuse, and I talked about 9/11. And it was very clear that the intelligence community was being prepped for two things. One, to expect airplane hijackings. Now, I have to be honest with you, because I know a lot of you are interested in the controlled demolition. They prepped us to expect the airplane hijackings. They told us about it. Like my CIA handler demanded that Iraq had to give us this, and they insisted that if it happened, there would be dire consequences. There was something else going on that summer that was really beautiful. This peace framework that we had been working on was magnificent. It was turning out just glorious for a peace dividend. The Iraqis were now offering the weapons inspections, which of course the United States had very rigorous standards for the weapons inspections. Iraq was offering cooperation with anti-terrorism to allow the FBI to go in. And Iraq started to offer a lot more. A lot more came on the table. By June and July of 2001, Iraq was offering the United States preferential contract. Now think about the economy today. preferential contracts for the United States corporations on telecommunications, healthcare, hospital equipment, pharmaceuticals, transportation. Iraq offered to buy 1 million American manufactured automobiles every year for 10 years. Think of what that would have done to the economy. Think about non-dual use factory production. And all of this was because the CIA was like, you know, if we're going to give up these darn sanctions, we're going to take a pound of flesh with it. They had no, you know, and whether you like the CIA or not, and most of you, 99% of you don't like the CIA, I realize that, of course. But the CIA was doing what it's supposed to do, whether you like it or not. And I hated the sanctions. I was doing this because I hated the sanctions. I was doing it because I thought, because they had destroyed education, they wiped out literacy in a single generation, they destroyed the hospitals and the healthcare system. Iraq performed the second heart transplant in the world, and we wiped them out. Okay? 11,000 people died every month. By the end of 1996, 500,000 children had died of sanctions, and they only counted 5-year-olds and younger. They didn't even count the 6-year-olds because the United Nations was holding back the numbers. And after that report in December of 96, they stopped counting it. The United Nations never published another report on the deaths. So frequently what you will hear is that only 500,000 children died, but in fact they continued to die, and approximately 1 million children died. They were babies. They weren't even alive when the first Gulf War happened. This was an offense against, you know, this is genocide. This is a mass genocide. The Iraqis wanted the sanctions off so badly that they were going to give the United States everything that they could have wanted. So this is even going on before 9/11 happens. And they were going to give them, you know, 1 million American-made automobiles every year. Telecommunications, that would be satellites, phone, TV, you know, the CIA could have been, you know, snooping through all the Middle East phone conversations. It was crazy what they lost. Healthcare, hospital equipment, pharmaceuticals, just on and on, just amazing things. Oil. Yeah, they could have had everything, even oil. And the only group that wasn't going to benefit was the military-industrial complex, because this would have been peace. This would have been a very prosperous peace. Believe me, the CIA was driving a hard bargain. Anything that we could think to add, I mean, and I have to say, again, I'm anti-sanctions, so I know that a lot of people would say, well, that's not fair to do to the Iraqis, and I agree with you. I agree with you. But it was what the CIA wanted, and they were going to have every single thing that they could think to get. And they wanted, and at the same time, we all knew that it would have to be tremendous to appease George Bush, because he was out for, you know, the Daddy Bush fantasy, this delusion. It was a delusion. But the one group that was not going to benefit was the military-industrial complex.
The CFR and Trilateral Commission are very influential. They're very much controlled, you know, at the Wall Street level and the military-industrial complex. But I do not know exactly who is and who is not a member who happens to be the candidates. I know that some of them are members, but I do not. I don't believe every one of them is a member, would be my guess. But the explicit answer to your question is no, I am not a member.
The United Nations bragged that the H1N1 flu pandemic was a great drill, a global exercise preparing the planet to go under United Nations control, and that all the major signatories to the World Health Organization agreements on flu pandemic were now under UN control. That's one of the main reasons that we see this being carried out. It's all a globalization, federalization drill to train everyone to waive their rights and waive their liberties so that we can all be protected from this public health menace.
Again, I say it is all coordinated. These aren't coincidences. The terms that they're using and the distractions and diversions that they're kind of shoving down our throats right now, and you know, that's pretty sad. Greta, the bottom line is something's up. And what Obama is doing right now is trying to run out the clock for some reason, and they're orchestrating chaos. But as they're running out the clock, it's like the stall play in a basketball game. They're hogging the ball, and it's unproductive, and it's cowardly, and nothing good is going to come from this. And what happens during a stall play is the crowd, they get up and leave. Even hardcore fans are saying, you know, this is cowardly and it's unproductive, I'm out of here. The only fans that aren't going to bail on this stall play that we're all observing is still the media, the mainstream media. They're going to stick with this because they're part of the problem. And it's going to be to the detriment of the profession of journalism, and it will be to the detriment of a free America as we know it.
The most powerful weapon deployed by the Clintons is the corporate media, the press. Let's be clear on one thing. The corporate media in our country is no longer involved in journalism. They're a political special interest, no different than any lobbyist or other financial entity with a total political agenda, and the agenda is not for you, it's for themselves. Anyone who challenges their control is deemed a sexist, a racist, a xenophobe. They will lie, 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 and then again, they will do worse than that. They will do whatever is necessary. The Clintons are criminals, remember that. This is well documented, and the establishment that protects them has engaged in a massive cover-up of widespread criminal activity at the State Department and the Clinton Foundation in order to keep the Clintons in power. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself.
As time goes on, I think that, you know, the credibility of the media, and I include, you know, myself in the media, that we're hovering around near Congresses, which is not very impressive. And I think that the American people have discovered search engines, and more have computers, and when they Google, and when they see that the president said in early May, for instance, that this tax targeting by the IRS was a very serious matter, and then they see that Lois Lerner takes the fifth, and now they see the president's making fun by saying it's phony. Is the American people just aren't that stupid? You know, I don't think they're going to. I think at some point they're going to look at us in the media and think we're just a bunch of fools. We don't make credibility anyway,
no kidding,
and they're going to rely on themselves. I would think, you know, because you know they're just not going to buy it. They fact check us.
Of course, that goes without saying. Americans are smarter than what the lamestream media is giving them credit for. They're doing their own homework, and they're figuring out the hypocrisy and the lies coming from this government. Because as you just have listed some of the problems of this hypocrisy and the lies coming from the Obama administration, what's going to happen? What are the ramifications of this corrupt and overburdensome government of Obama's? Nothing is going to happen, because the referee in all of this is supposed to be cornerstone of democracy, our media, and they won't do their job. They're lapdogs for Barack Obama. And very unfortunate, very, very dangerous, but the American people, we are the ones doing the job that the media should be doing. For shame that the media is going to continue what they're doing.
The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. For those who control the levers of power in Washington, and for the global special interests, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. This is a struggle for the survival of our nation, and this will be our last chance to save it. This election will determine whether we're a free nation or whether we have only the illusion of democracy, but are in fact controlled by a small handful of global special interests rigging the system, and our system is rigged. This is reality. You know it, they know it, I know it, and pretty much the whole world knows it. I knew this day would arrive. It's only a question of when. And I knew the American people would rise above it and vote for the future they deserve. And we are going to make our country great again. I didn't need to do this, folks, believe me. I built a great company, and I had a wonderful life. I could have enjoyed the fruits and benefits of years of successful business deals and businesses for myself and my family, instead of going through this absolute horror show of lies, deceptions, malicious attacks. I'm doing it because this country has given me so much, And I feel so strongly that it's my turn to give back to the country that I love. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again. Time magazine last week did an incredible cover story. They said it's a movement, and that's what it is. It's an incredible movement with incredible people. Incredible people. Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people.
I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president.
Our campaign represents a true existential threat like they haven't seen before. This is not simply another four-year election. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, reclaim control over our government. The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry. The Clinton machine is at the center of this power structure. We've seen this firsthand in the WikiLeaks documents, in which Hillary Clinton meets in secret with international banks to plot the destruction of U.S. sovereignty in order to enrich these global financial powers, her special interest friends, and her donors. Honestly, she should be locked up. The political establishment has brought about the destruction of our factories and our jobs as they flee to Mexico, China, and other countries all around the world.
The screamers and the crazy people on the alt-right, as they call it, who love Donald Trump, who have plenty of Hitler iconography in their Twitter icons and things.
They sure do. I can back that up.
Donald Trump is the greatest thing. Oh, it's something. But the fact of the matter is most of them are childless single men who masturbate to anime. They're not real political players.
I feel like I'm going to start pounding the meat, Joe. I'm going to start pounding the meat in here, for God's sake. It's unbelievable.
The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. Our great civilization.
It's time to face the facts, join our hands, make a stand. It's time to gather plans, get the shot, take the chance. Till there is no one left, stay correct to the death. They can't ever break a freedom, we will never let them. The corrupt politics is killing the system. Cynicism is it, and it's everything that you witness. They tell you what to think, make you believe that they're the realness. They feed us full of lies, and yet we always forgive them. It's all conspiracy, and if defeated in a witch, you're the puppet, the government's pulling strings from above you. It's time for the introduction to truth, and let's start a movement. We've all been brainwashed, they believe that we all are stupid. We believe in what we see and whatever our ears are hearing. But if you look close, listen, gather your own opinion, you'll understand all the lines and what's between them. This word is not your oyster, this word is a fucking prison. Come on! To what's happening in our nation. No one will stand up for the fear of assassination. So they strip us of everything. We stand there and just take it. Scared to make a stand, a false flag operation. Research Illuminati, find out by 9/11. You see they line their pockets, don't believe the lies they tell you. Trying to seek the truth, realize we need to do whatever it is we can to protect our livelihood. It's time for us to prove whether conspiracy or not. They owe some explanations to the questions that we got. What are the skull and bones? What is lying beneath? All these secretive meats got you lying between your teeth. What's with the Bilderberg? I'm burning your effigies. I'm praying to Lucifer. How Satanist can you be? While all of the time praying you believing in the peace just to keep up appearances within Christianity. Come on.
that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.